Picture this, the barren plains of North Africa. Two horsemen ride out to meet right between their massive armies. For 16 long, brutal years, they've been at war. And now, everything, the fate of their nations, the future of the known world, it all comes down to this one single encounter. This is that story. So who are these guys? On one side, you've got Publius Cornelius Scipio, nicknamed the Son of Serpent. He's the young avenger, a genius who clawed his way up from Rome's worst defeats. And on the other, Hannibal Barca, the son of Thunderbolt, the seasoned invader who has been the boogeyman of Rome for more than a decade. Believe me, this isn't just a battle, this is personal. This is a clash between two of the greatest military minds in all of history.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with that first face-to-face meeting, then rewind to see how the stage was set. We'll look at their last chance for peace, dive deep into the battle itself, which is a total masterpiece, and then see how it created a whole new world order. And finally, we'll explore the incredible legacy of these two rivals.
So let's start right there, on the plains near Zama. For the very first time, after 16 years of pure chaos and war, Scipio and Hannibal are looking each other in the eye. I mean, these are the two greatest generals of their time. They knew of each other, probably even admired each other. But now, one was hoping for peace, while both knew their story was probably about to end in a whole lot of bloodshed.
So how did we even get here? I mean, this epic showdown wasn't just some accident. No, it was the result of betrayals, some really desperate moves, and a war that had just about bled both sides completely dry. Let's take a quick look at the final steps that led them to this field.
So, in 2003 BC, Hannibal gets recalled from Italy. He's furious, blaming his own government for not supporting him enough. Carthage immediately tries to make peace. But then, and you can't make this stuff up, they go and plunder a Roman supply convoy. When Scipio sends his guys to complain, Carthage tries to assassinate them. For Scipio, that was it. That was the last straw. The truce was off, and a final, winner-take-all battle was absolutely going to happen. But, right before the slaughter was about to begin, something pretty remarkable happened. Hannibal actually requested a meeting. What happened next was this incredibly dramatic negotiation between the two generals, one last shot to end this thing with words instead of swords. Hannibal, the older, more experienced of the two, spoke first. He basically warns Scipio, telling him that fortune, or fate, is a tricky thing. He'd learned the hard way how quickly a victory can flip into a disaster. He wasn't talking like a conqueror anymore, but like a man who knew the real price of war. And he offered a surprisingly generous peace deal. But Scipio's response? Ice cold. He points to all of Carthage's recent treachery, the stolen ships, the assassination attempt. How could he possibly trust a word they said? For him, the time for talking was long gone. The choice was simple: surrender without conditions or get ready to fight. The meeting was over.
And so the battle begins. And this right here is where we see Scipio's genius on full display. He wasn't just going to face Hannibal's army. He was going to take Hannibal's own brilliant plan and completely dismantle it, piece by piece. It was a tactical masterpiece that they'd talk about for centuries. Okay, let's look at the armies. Hannibal has 80 war elephants, a huge advantage, and a corps of about 15,000 elite veterans who fought with him in Italy. But, and this is the big but, Scipio has the advantage where it counts most: superior cavalry, thanks to his North African ally, Massinissa. And that cavalry advantage, it's going to be the key to the whole thing.
Scipio's plan was just incredible, a 5-step masterclass. First, he deals with the elephants. He has his men blow these super loud trumpets to scare them and opens up corridors in his lines so the panicked elephants just run right through without doing much damage. Genius. Second, his better cavalry quickly smashes Hannibal's and chases them right off the battlefield. Third, his infantry starts the slow, hard grind, chewing through Hannibal's first 2 lines of mercenaries. Fourth, and this was a brilliant, totally unexpected move, he reorganizes his tired soldiers into one single, long battle line to face Hannibal's fresh, elite veterans. And that sets the stage for the 5th and final step, the hammer blow. And here is the ultimate, most incredible irony of the whole war.
Just as Hannibal's elite troops are locked in this brutal fight with Scipio's infantry, the Roman cavalry returns. They come thundering back onto the field and crash right into the back of Hannibal's army. The exact same tactic Hannibal had used to destroy the Romans at his greatest victory, Cannae, the encirclement, was now being used to completely annihilate his own army. The battle was over. The victory was absolute. And the consequences of this one day would ripple through history for centuries, redrawing the map of the Mediterranean and setting Rome on a path to an empire that would, quite literally, define the Western world. The numbers here are just staggering. Carthage lost 20,000 men killed and another 20,000 captured, 40,000 total. And the Romans? They lost about 1,500. This wasn't just a loss for Hannibal. This was the utter destruction of Carthage's military might in a single afternoon. The peace treaty that followed was absolutely crushing. Carthage was stripped of its navy, its elephants, and its right to even wage war without asking Rome first. They were forced to pay an insane amount of money for the next 50 years. This treaty didn't just end the war, it ended Carthage as a major power and left Rome the undisputed boss of the Western Mediterranean. But the story of Scipio and Hannibal doesn't actually end at Zama. Their rivalry, which was built on this weird foundation of mutual respect, had one last really fascinating chapter to go, years after the war was over. So fast forward to around 1902 BC, Scipio, now known as Scipio Africanus because of his victory, is in Ephesus on a diplomatic mission. And who does he run into? Hannibal, now living in exile serving some foreign king. And the two old enemies, they have a polite chat, almost like old friends catching up. At one point, Scipio asks Hannibal who he thinks are the greatest generals in history. And Hannibal, with all his pride still there, says Alexander the Great is number 1, Pyrrhus of Epirus is number 2, and then he ranks himself 3rd. Not bad, right? So Scipio laughs and asks the million-dollar question. Okay, but where would you have ranked yourself if you had beaten me at Zama? And Hannibal's reply is legendary. In that case, he said, I should have put myself before Alexander. It was the greatest compliment he could possibly pay. He was admitting that by beating him, Scipio had achieved something nearly impossible. Years later, Hannibal was betrayed and surrounded by Roman soldiers, but he wasn't going to be captured. He took poison. His final words were one last defiant jab at his old enemies, a perfect end for the man who had been Rome's greatest nightmare for a generation. Which leaves us with one final thought. The Battle of Zama was won by tactics, by timing, by a cavalry charge that arrived at the perfect critical moment. And it just makes you wonder, how different would the last 2,000 years of history be if that cavalry had been just a moment too late?